When I was in high school, my papa, my grandfather, told me that I was blessed, lucky compared to so many others to know so young what I wanted to do and what I cared about in life. And what he was speaking of at the time would have been the fact that I love writing, and I've always loved writing, and I always knew I wanted to be a writer. Now, this is not just to say that I want to do writing in my career. This is also the fact that writing is my greatest hobby. I'm currently writing a book. I've written tons of different poetry and different books from when I was younger that brought me joy at the time and doesn't bring me so much joy to reread now. But I am currently writing a portal fantasy book, and it brings me so much joy to be able to write this and try to bring it out to other people with these characters and this world that transports the reader and allows them to relate to these characters in ways that they have dealt with things in their life. In high school, I maintained my hobby of writing. In fact, that was more when it was first honed. I was very lonely and homeschooled, and I wrote pretty much all the time poetry, stories. It was when I first was kind of coming into my own with it. I maintained it a little bit more difficultly during my undergraduate studies. I worked 40 plus hours a week and then was going for my undergrad, and I ended up graduating with 2 bachelors. As it was, most of my writing ended up being school related. However, I did find myself writing poetry in my free time, and that kind of brought me back to life, brought me a lot more joy and vibrancy to my very dry and exhausting life. At the time, I was very tired constantly. I've continued more recently to make time for my hobby more than I did because I know how it was in my undergrad, and I didn't do what brought me joy. I was too busy focusing on the future. So as I am going into my graduate studies, I have been making intentional time for my hobby of writing. So I have every single day, I make sure I set aside a time, usually in the evening. I tend to write a little better in the evening or even the early mornings. It's like one or the other. And I will try to hit like 500 words a day, for example. Or I'll try to say I'm going to finish this chapter. Writing has helped me to process my emotions, which has created an emotional maturity that I don't think I would have had otherwise at the age of 26. It's taught me not to quit, even when imposter syndrome feels terrible, which it typically does in most areas, but as a writer, it's very, very hard. You deal with imposter syndrome, like, I'm not the person to be writing this. How could I possibly think that I would be able to do this? And this is not an idea that's going to work. It's not an idea that's going to be published, but that's not necessarily the point of it either. And it's brought me all these connections and friends on social media and in real life that people who love reading and writing and art just like I do. It's kept me living, which is really the most important thing. It's kept me living, alive, surviving. It's brought me joy, even if the joy came from good, relatable work in some of the greatest sorrow of my life. And it's created these characters to love that mean something to others. And my greatest goal with my hobby and how much I love it is that if you write one thing that means one thing to someone in your life, then my life has not been in vain. So thank you so much.